A peaceful end to the war in Ukraine remains uncertain. Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he's prepared to take the Donbas region by force should Ukraine refuse to cede the territory. It's a statement that's fundamentally at odds with Ukraine's desired outcome and highlights just how far apart both sides are from coming to a working agreement. Roger Collins joins us now with more. Roger?
That's right, Manice. As we speak, Ukrainian delegates are in Florida to meet with U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner just 2 days after they held talks in Russia with Putin. But behind closed doors, this deal is shaky at best. A recent report on a leaked call between several EU and NATO officials paints another picture, one that casts doubt on Trump's peace plan.
He would like to end the war. That was their impression. Now, whether or not, that was their impression. Their impression was that he would like to see the war ended. I think he'd like to get back to dealing a more normal life. I think he'd like to be trading with the United States of America, frankly, instead of, losing thousands of soldiers a week.
Late Wednesday, U.S. President Donald Trump appeared optimistic that Russia was serious about ending the war. But just today, comments made by Vladimir Putin during his trip to India clearly demonstrate the Russian leader's hardline stance. While being interviewed by India Today, Putin made his intentions in the Donbas very clear. Either Ukraine backs down and cedes the territory, or he'll take it by force. And while Russia does control much of the region, Ukrainian forces are dug in deep and unwilling to give it up.
Probably you've got a couple of million people there that have not been occupied by Russia, and they are heavily fortified by Ukraine. And what Putin is trying to do is get these territories without fighting anymore and without losing lots of troops.
The peace plan, at least on its surface, is being lauded by everyone at the table. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his nation's wishes are being heard, and the head of NATO is grateful too.
And I strongly welcome President Trump's continued efforts to bring about a just and lasting peace.
Even Trump seems to be pleased.
President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff.
Well, I think what the envoys are doing, and with all due respect, they're not diplomats. They are cronies, basically, of Trump, business associates, both billionaires, and they've been used consistently by Trump to negotiate on his behalf in this kind of personal style of presidency. And they've basically given the house away. I mean, they've not made any inroads into Putin's demands at all.
But behind closed doors, a different story is starting to unfold. Early today, Der Spiegel, a German magazine, began reporting on memos it obtained from a leaked call between several top EU and NATO heads. In it, French President Emmanuel Macron reportedly warning Ukraine that there's a, quote, chance that the U.S. will betray Ukraine on territory without clarity on security guarantees. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz warning Zelensky he needs to be, quote, very careful. Even NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte, who outwardly has been praising Trump's efforts, commenting, quote, we need to protect Zelensky.
I mean, Trump wants peace, right? He's got this demand for peace because he wants to make a deal. He wants to get access to Ukrainian mineral riches, and he wants the United States to invest, just as in Gaza, where he had this idea of building a whole casino and other things between the war with Israel and Hamas. Today he's got the same idea in Ukraine, so he's not really looking at the actual bases of a deal.
Meanwhile, Ursula von der Leyen has put forward a plan to relinquish $90 billion in Russian assets to help fund Ukraine.
We can equip them with the means to defend themselves and, even more important, with the means to lead peace negotiations from a position of strength.
Ukraine is probably in its better interest to break off completely and say we've got no interest in this deal. But if it does that, Russia will claim, well, we're doing all the concessions, we're making all the advances, and Ukraine isn't interested. And I think Zelensky wants to avoid that impression.
As this deal unfolds, the war continues. Last night, 6 people were injured in Odessa from Russian airstrikes that also knocked out power to more than 50,000 residents.